Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I've been thinking a lot about form factor. At least that's what your boy Zach calls it. And that is essentially like the vehicle, the format, I don't know, how comics are sold and how you buy those comics. And I've been thinking a lot about this, talking to several different people on their ideas on what works, what doesn't work, and also just, what is happening in comics. I think this is important, especially for me, because if you're trying to do indie comics, if you're trying to be publishing books yourself, the traditional method of putting out floppies and then potentially a trade paperback later down the road might not be a viable option. It might not make a lot of sense, or it might. Maybe it does. So I've been really trying to dig into this and figure out what I want to do, especially because I'm preparing to do another project. I told you about that blockbuster story that I'm doing with Charlie Snogans. I'm really, really excited about it, and we're trying to make sure that we do everything as correct as we possibly can, so that the book is a success and so that it is top tier, just amazing. Now, I'm already in the game, right? Downcast, the campaign is over. All of the interior art is finished. We're working on letters right now, and we're going to do some editing and get it to the printer and get that thing shipped. I'm so excited to get it into your hands if you back the project. I wanted to show this off. I just couldn't help myself. This is a variant cover from Downcast number 2. This will be coming out soon. I don't know when, probably next year. You'll be able to get it. Yeah, I'm just really excited to show you. I know that you can't see it very well, and this is not doing it justice, but the great amount of detail that Matt went into in this piece is just astounding. I'm so excited to get this colored. So yeah, be looking for that. That'll be Downcast 2. The second part, that'll be the conclusion, essentially. Oh yeah, and by the way, right now, Thrilling Comics is on Indiegogo. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Let's jump into the video. Okay, so form factor. How do you obtain comic books? Now, it's become really apparent to me that I've said this before. Now it's just reinforced. I know that I'm right. Okay, there are different kinds of comics buyers, and they buy comics for different reasons. And yeah, there's some overlap. Now, I'm finding, especially on crowdfunding comics, it's collectors or early adopters that are the ones that are willing to pay more money for comics. If you're paying $25, or in my case $15 for Downcast, it's probably a little bit more than you'd be paying for a single floppy comic book, or even a couple floppies for that matter. However, that is so necessary. It is so important to making crowdfunding work. Paying an entire creative team gets really expensive. And so having early adopters, my nose is itchy, having early adopters that say, hey, I believe in this comic book, I want to try and get in early, and I want something special for it. I want a limited print run. I want something that is going to maintain its value over time. It's so on and so on. This is important. If I think of this more as though like how the movie industry works, you release the big movie in the theaters. Yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit more, just potentially for the one-time viewing of it. You're watching it together. It's this big event. There's something special and shiny about it. And I know that there are certain movies that I want to see in the theater because I'm really excited about them. If I care less about those movies, then, I'll wait until it comes out on DVD. If I really like it, I'll buy the DVD. If not, I'll just rent the thing in Redbox. Now, when I'm not an early adopter, that doesn't really help the movie that I really care about to make the profit back, because it's such an important aspect of, launching that movie is getting your money back soon, making a profit. And then you have, the other methods to continue to make money off of that property that you've spent so much time and money making. And hopefully it becomes something that people love and cherish afterward. Now, comics obviously is a little bit different traditionally, and I shouldn't have to say this, but if you're not familiar with comics, this is how it works. Usually a single floppy is released. I've picked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the current revamped run. So this is a cover from number 1. Then, if you're lucky, much of the time, it'll go into a collection called a trade paperback, and it'll be, 4 to 6 issues, maybe 8 issues that'll be included into a single trade paperback, and this will be sold for a little bit more money, but really you're paying less money for the volume of story that you're getting and for the page count. So it's really, I think of this as something going to DVD, so to speak. So first you have the floppy. These are also collectible. They have a tendency, not all the time, but they can go up in value depending on the print run. Again, this is why with Indiegogo, it's a totally different animal, because the print runs really are very, very small. And so, yeah, they can go up in value. I don't really see trade paperbacks that jump up in value and become big collector's items. It seems like it's more difficult to keep them in pristine condition. And other than that, I mean, it's just meant to be read. It's just a different format. And I love trade paperbacks, so for what it's worth. Now here's a new one. This is, again, I just picked 3 of the same thing. Volume 1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And this is the hardback edition. I'll tell you, I have some of the floppies for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have a lot of the trade paperbacks because I just want to follow the series and read it. And then I saw this come out. This was actually a few years ago that this came out, and it looked so awesome. That cover's by Dan Duncan. Looks so cool. I wanted it. Need to have it, even though I've already got the story, right? But this is sort of rounding off what you can get in comics, and you know, basically just topping off the story. You can buy everything. You could do that, or you could wait and buy in at the point in time that you'd like to. Now, I can tell you that it does not make a lot of sense to start off with making a hardback book. I know that there are going to be a lot of people that disagree with me here. I think that it's true, though. Having a hardback book is extremely expensive to produce, and if that is the first thing that you do right off the bat, you've also got all the other expenses to contend with, including getting your creative team paid, right? All of this is important. And so I'm learning that, you know, I did a trade paperback. It's perfect bound for Downcast, and that book is going to be 56 pages long in total. And so it's not super long. It doesn't really seem like a trade paperback, but it's also not a floppy. It's somewhere in between. I wish there was a great word for this in between. I've had my eye on getting into Hellboy and a few of the other classics out there. And now, because those runs have been around for so long, they have great hardback collected editions that contain 2 different trade paperbacks in each section. This is a lot like that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle hardcover. I don't know how many volumes were in each of those. Yeah, this is another package that you get, and this is further down the road. Some other publishing methods that are interesting to explore is I actually did a live stream last night and talked to the creative team on Awry. Now, this is a book that's being published through Action Lab Comics, and I'd never heard of this before. Essentially, what they're doing is launching the book on Comixology, but they're launching this 4-issue miniseries all at once on Comixology. So essentially, when it's released, you can go through and read the entire run in its entirety if you'd like to. Really just binge read the story. I have no idea how this will work out. I actually really don't like reading digital comics. I've read a few digital comics and it just feels soulless to me. It's just not for me. But if you like digital comics, I would, suggest checking out Awry. Now, could this be a new idea to publishing, in that you do it this way digitally, and then perhaps you do a collected trade paperback afterward? Maybe. I don't know. That's a really interesting concept. I do want to keep my eye on this and see how it works, especially for the creators, and see if it might be a good idea down the road. For me right now, though, I just don't like digital. I want to stick with something else. Here's another one, another format being explored. Everything you noticed, all these things are happening right now. There's a lot of fluidity. There's a lot of experimentation in indie comics that's going on right now. This is the Futurist saga. This is the deal. I already backed this. What you get is 3 different comics, essentially 3 different number 1 issues. My understanding is that these stories will be launched through this crowdfunding, and then they're going to go straight through the direct market through Diamond Distribution and get the book out to people that way. I'm not sure if the number 2 issues in the series will also be crowdfunded first. I don't know. I think that it's just the first one. I'd love to get Me and Mitch Breitweiser have talked a little bit about getting him on the stream sometime to talk about what he's doing, and I'd love to ask him some questions on his plans for the future on this. But this is, again, another interesting concept of how to use crowdfunding to get books out to people. And in this case, it is actually starting with floppies. It's actually adding another step. You have floppy comics released through crowdfunding, then you have floppy comics released through the direct market, and then I assume eventually things would be collected into trade paperbacks, and so on and so on. What I like about this method is that perhaps you're giving those early adopters, those collectors, a smaller print run, something that is really special and unique to them for backing it, and that potentially can maintain or even grow in value over time because it's such a small print run. At the same time, you're also giving people the option to buy the books through the direct market. Now, I've seen this go wrong in the past, or similar things go wrong in the past, and that it has to do with timing. If you're going to make the book and have your backers on a crowdfunding project back that thing early on, then you're going to want to follow through and make sure that they get their book first rather than jumping to the direct market and getting it, sold to comic shops through the direct market. You'd really want to make sure you do your timing correctly there. I don't see any reason why that can't be done properly and appropriately. But I don't know. There are all sorts of ways to fail, I suppose. So yeah, I'm really excited about this one because I know Kelsey Shannon. He's awesome guy. I talked to the Breitweisers a little bit. They just have a lot of really great creators on this team, and so I'm excited to see how it goes. So I don't know if there's anything that I missed in publishing comics. What kinds of ways do you like to buy? I'm starting to really warm up to the idea of a hardback book to get. It sounds nice to me, but for sure it doesn't make sense right off the bat. But I don't know, let me know what you think. What are your best kinds of comics that you've gotten on crowdfunding, especially? What were some form factors that you got that you really appreciated and that maintained some kind of value to you as a reader or as a collector? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.